Husband killed in motorcycle accident and person who caused it only got a ticket. Almost 2 weeks ago my 22F husband was killed on his 23M motorcycle. Someone pulled out in front of him and according to police my husband tried to dodge them but couldn't, hit the rear side of their car and didn't suffer because he died on impact. The insurance, preliminary incident report and coroner confirmed that my husband had no fault in this and not only wore required PPE but then some for our state, no helmet required state which is dumb. Biker jacket with plating, gloves, thick jeans, helmet with full face shield, etc. When I was first told of his death I obviously asked if the other person who caused it was okay and they were both perfectly fine. I asked what would happen to them and was told they're an elderly couple and because they weren't under the influence of drugs or alcohol the most we can give them is a ticket for failure to yield. My husband had right of way. I'm wondering if that's true or if they simply do not want to bother pursuing criminal charges. Is there any way to press charges and what can I do? He means more than a $180 ticket and the thought of them getting nothing for killing him is eating me up. Prosecutors generally have the ultimate authority to decide whether to press criminal charges in a specific case. If they decide not to, there's often not a lot you can do to force their hand. Generally, if they don't, it's a good indication that they don't think they can win the case. This fact doesn't preclude you from pursuing civil action against the other party, however. Talk to a local attorney who could advise you of the likelihood of success. This would involve monetary and not criminal penalties, but it might help you with getting a sense of closure. Sorry you're going through this. A ticket is significant because it can establish civil liability. It makes sense to speak to a personal injury, wrongful death attorney, or realistically a few, when you feel up to it, but absolutely within a year or so. Criminal charges would require something more than a tragic outcome. Accidents can and do happen and that doesn't always mean sending someone to prison. Former prosecutor here. I was routinely assigned to review cases just like this for potential charges, and prosecute the ones where charges issued. In my jurisdiction, we worked with the local police as well as crash reconstruction specialists from the state police. These investigations could literally take years before a charging decision is made depending on the quality and type of evidence that needed to be sought and analyzed. If the driver was not under the influence, they almost never were arrested on scene. Rather, where there was no evidence of intoxication, our investigation was focused on whether the other driver was negligent as my jurisdiction provides for a charge of negligent motor vehicle homicide. In layman's terms, we wanted to know if the crash was avoidable looking at the totality of the evidence. If we felt the hard evidence supporting a finding that the crash was avoidable by the surviving driver, then the driver would be charged. Again, that could take 2 or more years to come to fruition. Before any charging decision was announced, we would meet with the family to explain our reasoning. In many cases, there was simply a lack of evidence to prove that the crash was avoidable by the surviving driver. I have not been in your shoes, Op, but I have had to explain to angry families why we cannot charge someone with a crime based on the impact of the loss alone and speculative ideas of how someone was operating a vehicle. We need evidence, not grief and guesswork. In some instances, the family was mistakenly led astray about the likelihood of charges by someone in the police department without the authority to render an opinion. I recommend reaching out to your local district attorney's office to ask if there is a pending investigation. If you hire an attorney for a civil claim, they will undoubtedly do that anyway. I don't know what criminal charges are available in your jurisdiction, but it is very possible that the DA is still investigating the crash. I am an attorney and counselor. I mean quite sincerely you need the latter before you deal with the former. You have a case for the driver's insurances to give you money using their civil liability insurance, which most of the time comes with any driver insurance. Fearnet. Reckless as driving 120 in a 70 or blowing red lights while speeding. This was, at worst, criminally negligent, but it sounds like it was simple civil negligence, meaning that it's just a standard accident. Why would you assume that someone who killed a man in a car wreck in which that person was at fault wouldn't feel regret? Motorcycles are notorious for being not easy to see. They are lower to the ground, small surface area, often if it's an SUV, that can be below the line of sight of the mirror. You're really trying to make them out to be reckless and negligent, but sometimes the way traffic patterns were done isn't the best, and merge accidents do happen. I am so very sorry for your loss. I understand you don't feel this was truly an accident and that is your prerogative. But you should at least be aware that 1. Motorcycles headed towards you are harder to see, and 2. Their speed and distance is harder to judge. The driver may not have been reckless, they just may be human. And I am not sure why you doubt their regret. Very often in an accident the person that is likely at fault is advised not to contact the other party or their family. It doesn't mean they don't want to or aren't sorry. Like others have said, the driver's insurance will pay out. How much will depend on multiple factors including the policy maximum of the driver. An accident lawyer can help you navigate this, should work on contingency, so you don't pay up front, only a percentage if they win your case, and will often get you a higher settlement. If the driver pleads guilty or is found guilty, you may be eligible for victims' compensation. The prosecutor office can help you with this. Usually that only happens if the person was uninsured or underinsured, but different states, counties have different laws.